Welcome to day 11 of my 2026 Australian Open coverage. Let's start with Musetti versus Djokovic. First set, Djokovic starts strong, holds, breaks, is up 2-love, but the game at 2-0 was crucial for Novak because he started displaying some uncharacteristic errors. And it's so weird because he started this match very strong. So in this game, serving at 2-0 at 15 all, a very unusual forehand drop volley miss from Novak. At 15:30, however, he delivers two very strong points and is up 40-30. He hits a bomb out wide. Musetti chips the return cross court. Djokovic misses his trademark down the line two-handed backhand into the net. At add-in, Djokovic, similarly to the previous game point, misses another two-handed backhand down the line. On the next point, he serves a bomb down the tee, serves and volleys, delivers two strong volleys. Musetti pops up a lob. Djokovic frames the first overhead. Musetti gets it back. Djokovic finds himself behind the service line, and on the next ball that Musetti pops up, he has to move forward to hit an overhead, which is a very tricky shot that he ends up framing long. He saves the next break point. Musetti at deuce delivers a very strong forehand return and then an even stronger inside-out short forehand. Djokovic is down break point, and he dumps a relatively easy inside-in forehand into the net, loses his serve. Now, we know that Djokovic is the master of the re-break. However, not in the next game. Musetti ends up holding comfortably. It's 2-all. And Djokovic is serving, and at 15:30, he hits a kick serve and serving volleys. And Musetti hits one of his phenomenal one-handed backhand down the line return winners. And it's the first time that Musetti pumps himself up. Novak ends up losing this game. It's 2-4. And at this moment in time, I was certain that Novak was having a bad day. I watched so many matches of Novak, and especially the ones against Rafa. I was always on the lookout for a bad day from Djokovic because I wanted Rafa to win. And it's so interesting with Novak because he is the GOAT and he finds ways to win on his worst days. So something like this is not out of the ordinary for Novak because even when he plays poorly, he might lose a set or even two sets and then get his teeth into the match. So while I knew that he wasn't playing well, you never know with Novak because he can turn it around rather quickly. But he couldn't in this first set. He found himself down 3-4, love 40, and he was able to get out of this game, but he couldn't break Musetti's serve, who ended up winning this first set 6-4. Musetti breaks Novak in the first game of the second. Novak breaks right back, but then proceeds to lose his serve again. And once he was down 2-1 in the second, losing his serve two times in a row in that second set, I was certain that Novak was having one of those really off days. And indeed, Musetti might run away with this one and finally beat Novak after having lost to him so many consecutive times. But something interesting happened in that 2-1 game with Djokovic serving at 30 all. And Musetti was running very hard in this rally. And Djokovic hit a backhand cross-court volley. Musetti had to cover a lot of ground and slid into a defensive backhand slice shot. Djokovic then hit the next volley into the open court, and Musetti didn't continue to run after this ball. He sprinted and stopped, and I thought that was kind of weird. But nevertheless, Musetti continued to serve really well, was holding serve. At 5-3, Musetti, Djokovic serving at 30-15. Novak displayed his great sportsmanship. He hit a drop shot. Musetti ran it down, hit a forehand shot cross court that clipped the net a little bit. The ball went out. Umpire called the score 40-15 for Djokovic, but Djokovic conceded the point because he touched that ball with the tip of his racket just by a little bit. Novak has always been a class act on the court and a great sportsman. He ends up holding this game, but Musetti is serving very strong, holds, and wins that second set 6-4. In the third, both players hold, and Musetti serving at 1-all gets broken, but in this game, it's clear that he has trouble moving. Djokovic holds. Now it's 3-1, and Musetti is serving, but it's clear that he can't play anymore. He ended up hurting himself, most likely in the groin area. And in the post-match press conference, Musetti said that he hurt himself in the second set. And I think a possible point where he could have hurt himself was that 30-all point at 2-1 in the second set when he ran down that backhand cross-court volley from Novak. So an absolutely brutal injury for Musetti, who had a great chance to take out Novak in this one. As many people have mentioned online, this is very reminiscent of the Dimitrov injury against Sinner, but I think the injury that Musetti suffered is far less severe, and Lorenzo can be proud of his performance at the Australian Open. As I've said in numerous videos, Musetti has improved tremendously on hard court, and he played a phenomenal match. He's playing way more aggressive, he's serving well, he's returning well, and he is now a legitimate contender on hard court. What I like to see from Musetti, of course, to get healthy, but he needs to win a title. Hopefully he's fit enough to play some tournaments prior to Indian Wells in Miami, and I think a title for Musetti is coming very soon. Let's get back to Djokovic. He didn't have a good day, obviously, and he was not only a class act during the match, but also a class act on the on-court interview after the match. I didn't see any happiness in Novak's expressions. He didn't want to come through this match in this fashion. He wanted to finish out this match, and he understands better than anybody else that he was on his way home, as he said in that interview, and he simply did not have a good day while Lorenzo played an exceptional match. But unfortunately, in the post-match press conference, Novak was asked a very disrespectful question. And I watch a lot of interviews with the players. I use this to educate myself about the players, and there's some golden nuggets that you can get out of the players during interviews. I did this even way prior to starting my YouTube channel, where Tennis Channel had an interview series, very old school, player and interviewer sitting on a chair, and they've stopped doing this for a while now. But nevertheless, I think interviewing players is something that's very important. And in recent times, there have been some great interviews and podcasts, and they're always very respectful. However, when it comes to tennis journalists, the ones that ask questions after matches in these Grand Slam tournaments, these questions are often not only ridiculous from a logical standpoint, but sometimes even disrespectful. Novak was asked how it feels to chase Sinner and Alcaraz now, since he has chased Federer and Nadal earlier in his career. And I think what the journalist was maybe trying to ask is how it feels to have this huge challenge of overcoming Sinner and Alcaraz at his advanced age. But this came across so disrespectful because Novak has absolutely nothing to prove. We can be grateful that he's still out there. In 2024, when he won the Olympics, he completed his career and he could have retired right then. Whatever came after that is just a bonus, and it's a spectacular bonus because Novak Djokovic at the age of 38 has made 5 consecutive Grand Slam semifinals. Yes, for a short while he was possibly chasing Federer and Nadal, but that did not last very long. He is the most accomplished player in the history of tennis, and he deserves a tremendous amount of respect. Novak felt disrespected by this question, and I can't blame him. On top of that, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of comments saying how lucky Novak is to make it into the semifinals. And I truly believe that at the end of the day, everything in tennis evens out. Everyone can get lucky for sure at times, but at the same time, players are unlucky. And over the course of a long career, I think all this stuff evens out. So as I've said in many of my videos, I think it's phenomenal that Novak is still out there and we get to watch him play, and we have these matchups because next he is going to face Sinner, which is going to be such an exciting match to watch. Before I preview that one, let's first discuss Sinner against Shelton. Sinner wins 6-3, 6-4, 6-4. He doesn't lose serve and manages to break once in each set. If we look at the serve stats, we can learn a lot from this match. Sinner got 59% of his first serves in, 5 aces, 2 double faults, and he saved all 4 break points that Shelton had. Shelton, on the other hand, served 69% first serves, had 8 aces, 3 double faults, won 69% of first serve points won, and he got broken 3 times, with Sinner having a total of 12 break points. So Shelton played well in this match. He has improved from the back of the court. The backhand in this match was better than in some previous matches that he's played against Sinner. Shelton's return has also improved. I did not think that Shelton played a poor match despite losing in straight sets. However, if we take a look at Sinner's serve numbers, this gives us a clue why Shelton had 4 looks to break the Sinner serve, because Jannik did not have a good serving day. He got 59% first serves in and only had 5 aces, which are far worse numbers than in his previous 2 matches. So he was giving Shelton looks to get into his service games. And despite not serving his best, he was still able to hold serve through the entirety of the match, which tells you that Shelton has a very difficult time breaking the center serve even on a relatively poor serving day. So if you look at Shelton's serve numbers, you might be confused because 69% first serves in play seems like a great number, but I'm going to sound like a broken record. To me, this is a poor number. And again, Shelton was in single digits in aces. It is my belief that Shelton should be a player that's always in double digits regarding aces. I think that the serve placement overall in this match was poor. There were some instances in this match where he was serving close to the line and bringing the heat, but overall, Jannik was able to get his racket on the Shelton serve, and I still think that there was too much variety on the Shelton serve. He didn't bring the heat consistently enough. And why do I say that that's a bad thing? Well, it's obvious because Shelton is at a big disadvantage when he's in a rally against Sinner. Sinner can expose Shelton's weak spots. He can pull him off the court on the backhand side, and Shelton slices a lot of balls, and he's not going to win a lot of baseline rallies with the backhand slice. So if Shelton continues to play Sinner in this way and tries to beat him from the baseline, he is going to continue to lose in straight sets. Despite his improvements, Sinner will always have the upper hand. The only chance is to break Sinner's rhythm by not allowing these rallies to happen in the first place, a la Dimitrov at Wimbledon, and bring the absolute heat on his first serve and keep the points as short as possible. As I've said before, Shelton has the chance to be a solid top 5 player. He is making improvements, but it just shows you how difficult it is to break through the Sinner and Alcaraz barrier. You're not only going to have to play your best tennis, but you might have to get out of your comfort zone to beat these guys. Now let's preview Sinner versus Djokovic meeting in another Australian Open semifinal. And the last time they played in the semi was in 2024. And this was a very interesting match that Novak lost from the mental standpoint. I don't think that Sinner had that much of a physical advantage back then. And why do I say that? Because the match they played against each other prior to the Australian Open semifinal was that Davis Cup indoor match where Novak Djokovic had lob 40, 3 match points on the Sinner serve in the third set. Novak lost that match. Italy went on to win the Davis Cup, and this was the birth of the Sinner that we're seeing today. Absolute dominance, absolute blasts from the baseline, and relatively few errors. Sinner prior to that Davis Cup was blasting, was playing aggressive, but he had far more ups and downs in his matches. So I think Jannik, the last time he played Novak, took a lot of confidence into this match. Novak proceeded to win the Olympics in 2024, and he played very strong against Alcaraz last year at the Australian Open, taking him out in the quarterfinals. But I do believe that for the rest of 2025, I'm seeing physical challenges for Novak that I didn't necessarily see before. And Novak now not only has a mental disadvantage against Sinner, but also a physical one. So for those reasons, I do not see many chances for Novak in this one. He is, of course, going to have to serve at his best. The serve has been working for Novak. I think that's a big factor when it comes to Novak reaching the late stages in these tournaments at the age of 38. He's going to have to mix things up, but I'm uncertain whether that's going to have an effect when it comes to playing Sinner, because serve and volleying against Sinner is extremely dangerous. Ben Shelton tried it and it didn't work. Jannik Sinner currently is the best returner on planet Earth. So unless you're coming in with exceptional serves where Sinner is playing defensive returns, which doesn't happen very often, Jannik Sinner takes cuts on most of his returns, you're going to be volleying at your shoelaces and you're going to be at a disadvantage. Of course, Novak can try to utilize drop shots, and that's certainly something that can work, but it can only work in offensive situations. So it all gets back to Novak serving well and, of course, returning well. And the big factor will be how good Jannik's serve will be in that particular match. It's still a little bit of a question mark. I was surprised with his first serve percentage against Shelton, but overall, Jannik Sinner has been serving exceptionally well for a long time, so we can expect Jannik Sinner to serve well. So despite Novak's unbelievable return qualities, it's going to be tough to get into the Sinner service games. But I don't think this is going to be as much of a blowout as people expect it to be. I think Novak has proven in the past that he can come back from playing his worst tennis to playing his best tennis in a short amount of time. And I think physically speaking, despite his blisters, I think Novak is doing okay. But where physicality has hurt Novak in the last few matches against Sinner is when he gets into those baseline rallies. I feel that Novak is maybe a percentage point slower in his preparation, and it is my belief that Sinner has the ability to overpower Novak Djokovic from the baseline. On top of that, if these guys are scheduled during the day, this might sound crazy after Sinner's performance against Spizzirri, but I do think that this is an advantage for Sinner because Novak has struggled physically in regards to his endurance when he plays Alcaraz and Sinner. So Novak will benefit greatly for keeping these rallies as short as possible because as this match prolongs and he continues to be involved in these baseline exchanges, Novak is unfortunately going to get exhausted just like he did against Alcaraz at the US Open. So I'm expecting a straight set victory from Jannik, but there might be some tight sets. Let's discuss the women's quarterfinals. Pegula is on absolute fire. As I said in my previous video, she came into this match 3-0 against Anisimova, and she is now 4-0 against Anisimova because she took her out in straight sets 6-2, 7-6. Amanda was far from her best in this tournament, surprisingly so because I picked her to go all the way through to the final. I don't think she moved as well as she did during the US Open, for example, in this tournament. Another thing I noticed is that Amanda had some very negative body language throughout these matches, and even in this one against Pegula, there was a lot of negative body language. So a few factors came into play. First of all, Pegula on absolute fire, and second of all, Pegula liking Anisimova's game because Jessica is a counterpuncher and she is not as powerful as some of the other players at the top of the game, but when she gets power, she can give power back. And that's exactly what she was doing in that first set, winning it comfortably 6-2. But Amanda got into the match in the second set, was up 5-3 serving for the second set, but then delivered a double fault at 30-40. Amanda lost her serve again at 5-all, and it was Pegula serving for the match at 6-5, but surprisingly, Amanda was able to break back. But again, the body language on Anisimova during this tournament is confusing because she gets the break. She was smiling in a way where she seemed to be wondering why she's still in the court, expecting to have gone out. So from the body language, it did not seem to me that Anisimova had a lot of confidence and a lot of belief in herself. And Pegula proceeds to win that tiebreak 7-1. Pegula will face Rybakina in the semifinals, who took out Iga Swiatek. It is clear that the big three in women's tennis are Sabalenka, Rybakina, and Swiatek. Those are the best players, and they're going to be collecting the big titles over the next few years. Of course, Coco Gauff might sneak in and get one. Hopefully Amanda can sneak in and get one. And maybe even Pegula can sneak in and get a title. I think she would be very deserving of a title because she is such a phenomenal player. But these three players will dominate tennis: Rybakina, Sabalenka, and Swiatek. The first set was tight. I thought both players played well. Swiatek was serving down 6-5 to stay in the set, and Rybakina was able to get the break and the first set with some exceptional returning and some very aggressive baseline play. Once she got that first set 7-5, she opened up her game even more and won the second set comfortably 6-1. A lot of people think that Rybakina is going to win easily against Pegula, but the head-to-head is actually 3-3. And just like Anisimova, I think Rybakina is a type of player that suits Pegula because Pegula plays well when she gets pace, and Rybakina of course has a tremendous amount of power on her ground strokes. The last time they played was at the WTA finals indoors, and the match was very close, Rybakina winning it 6-3 in the third over Pegula. So I don't think this is going to be as easy of a match for Rybakina. I think Pegula will give herself chances to get into this match, but a Rybakina on the top of her game is going to be very difficult to beat, even though Pegula might like the way she plays. She is the best server on the WTA Tour and can bring such incredible power from the baseline. So I am expecting a Rybakina-Sabalenka final. I'm going to finish this video off with a word on Iga Swiatek, and I do believe that Iga is in a good space with her tennis despite losing in the quarterfinals of the Australian Open. I want to compare Iga's career to Rafa's career. And when Rafa played, he had a good season if he was able to win Roland Garros. And maybe he snuck in another Grand Slam as well. And I believe that Iga should approach her tennis season the same way. She is the best player on clay by far. And last year during the clay court swing, she played some of the worst tennis that I've ever seen from Iga Swiatek, losing some very weird matches, for example, Danielle Collins in Rome, or getting absolutely destroyed by Coco Gauff in Madrid. I don't think we're going to see that anymore because Iga was able to recover what was missing and she was able to win Wimbledon after that disastrous clay court swing. And I do think that she recovered her form by making the semifinals of Roland Garros. So what I'm expecting from Iga is the following. I think the stretch between Indian Wells and Wimbledon is where Iga should have a lot of chances to dominate the tour and take a lot of titles. And she has the opportunity to become the greatest clay court player in the history of women's tennis by surpassing Chris Evert's record of 7 Roland Garros titles. I do think this is possible for Iga, and I do believe that this is what she should be striving for. Guys, if you haven't yet, subscribe to Intuitive Tennis, hit the like button on this video, and I will see you in the next one tomorrow. Take care.